You are listening to the Overcome Pornography for Good podcast, episode 232, A Key Piece Missing from the Self-Development World. Welcome to the Overcome Pornography for Good podcast, where we take a research-based, trauma-informed, and results-focused approach to quitting porn. This approach has been revolutionary and changed thousands and thousands of lives. I'm your host, Sarah Brewer. Hey everyone, welcome to today's podcast episode. I want to talk about this key piece that is often missing from the self-development world. And when I'm thinking self-development world, I'm thinking of, Atomic Habits, the book Atomic Habits, and all of the content about creating the routines that you want and how to crush your goals and future visualization. Who do you want to be and how are you going to create the habits to support that, and how to make the money that you want to make, go to the gym and crush your gym goals every week. And there are a lot of creators out there who teach you how to do this, and it's awesome. Like, I use this stuff, lean into discomfort, feel discomfort, how to create all these things. But there's a little bit of like macho man culture around all of this. And it's missing a really key piece that, if not developed, will create a huge imbalance. And you might end up doing more harm than good without this piece. And so maybe you've built the morning routine. Maybe you've nailed discipline. You're a very disciplined person. You're taking all of your supplements. Maybe you're hitting the gym and crushing your goals. But can you stay present when your wife is in pain? Can you sit in your own discomfort without needing to numb it? And so this key undertrained muscle I want to talk about is empathy. What if empathy is the most undertrained muscle in your personal development journey? And if it is, why do we need to look at that? Because there's, kind of a trend here where self-developments become kind of a lopsided equation, where the focus is to grow in performance and how well you can perform in the gym and perform in your financial capacity and perform in, doing all the things and being all the things. But you're not growing in presence. You're not growing in emotional intelligence. So like maybe you can deadlift 400 pounds, but you don't know how to handle a hard conversation. Or maybe you've read Atomic Habits and are, doing the habit stacking and all of those terms, but you can't handle your wife's emotions without getting defensive. And I say this, I really want you to know I'm saying this with like so much love and understanding and even a little bit of like, no shame here. And if this is you, if you're noticing this little bit of gap, it's not completely your fault. There's a big cultural, like I was talking about, kind of a big cultural divide between this. And like I said, some of this macho man culture where it's all about performance, but not about presence. And what I want to say here, and really hear me with this, but discipline, learning discipline without emotional intelligence, discipline without empathy becomes control, not connection. We've talked in recent episodes about the true superpower of like a masculine presence. And sometimes that masculine presence, if it's not rooted in emotional intelligence and empathy, it shows up in wounded ways, which is power control, me trying to prove that I'm the best, feeling like I preside over everything and I am the leader, the one to be listened to, versus what the true masculine superpower is, which is safety. Oh my gosh, is safety. I recently went to a group and it was a meditation group and there were a bunch of men there and I felt this pure masculine safety presence in deep, profound ways that I have never felt in my entire life. They're all of these men. And, as a woman, you're hyper aware of yourself when you're around men. Like, you're hyper aware of safety. You're hyper aware of like, are there any weird vibes? Is anyone trying to flirt with me? Is there like anything that feels a little bit like off in this setting? And, as I was noticing myself have kind of these awarenesses, I noticed and I just felt into like just this beautiful safety from all of these men. And they were so sweet with each other too. They're all older, like my dad's age or older. And they would just hold each other's hands and just like look each other in the eyes and like say, I love you. I love that I am your friend. I love to be your friend. I'm so grateful we're connected. It was so beautiful. I just cried thinking about it and, watching these men interact with each other in such compassionate and gentle ways. And also the way they held this container in this meditation group and they held this space of safety, of like pure safety. And it wasn't, because sometimes culture talks of empathy as it's fluff or as it's soft, and it didn't feel soft or fluffy. It felt really powerful and really safe. And like I've said, I've talked about this on recent episodes. And like, if we can develop this beautiful sense of emotional safety, of emotional connection, of empathy, especially in these masculine settings and masculine energies, oh my gosh, like we will do so much more good in the world than discipline alone ever could. And so why does this happen? Why does this macho man culture tend to block empathy? And I know so many of you were also raised with this, like real men don't cry, real men don't show weakness. But there seem to be cultural narratives around fix things, provide, and move on. And men are taught to suppress emotion, not understand it, and they're made fun of if they do show emotion, or people who have different traits and don't have these big masculine qualities are made fun of. They're called soft. And so that's kind of the culture here. And so what we want to do is we want to heal some of these cultural conditionings so we can show up much more grounded, much more safe, and much more powerful. Another cultural conditioning is that it's not powerful to show emotion. It's not powerful to have empathy. Empathy makes you less powerful. So this conditioning, it creates shame and it creates emotional avoidance, which, back to our original topic, is the perfect storm for pornography use. Don't forget that porn use, unwanted porn use, isn't about being bad or gross or just, choosing bad things and not having control. There's a lot more under the surface, and it's typically avoidance of emotion, and it's typically like a way that we avoid emotion and that we avoid discomfort. And so it makes sense that so many men would struggle with pornography when there's this culture of shame and emotional avoidance already conditioned in men. And so to redefine strength and start to heal, and not just, self-development for the sake of making me the best self possible, which means accomplishing the most and having the best habits and having the best body or whatever that is. Like, what if we added empathy into that equation? What if we understood that staying grounded and staying empathetic when someone is hurting is a beautiful masculine skill? And this isn't just for, like I said, not just for fluff, but empathy really helps you where it matters. Men who build empathy have better marriages, have better relationships with their kids, are better leaders at work. Empathy leads to trust. It builds loyalty that's rooted in love and not fear. If you're going through and you're creating discipline and you're doing all the self-help without creating and bettering this skill of empathy, you're missing a key piece in your ability to impact. And right, we know so many examples of people who have built the businesses, who have built the bodies, who are focused on the performance and focused on the self-development, but they aren't able to sit with their wives in difficult emotion, but they aren't able to have good relationships with their children because they can't see past a world viewpoint that is their own, that they're stuck in hate on online comments and online dialogues. And the cost of not developing empathy is disconnection, is loneliness, is defensive relationships. I'm sure you guys have seen this, maybe. I see this, that there's a loneliness epidemic among men. What is the root of that? Why is that? And many experts will say that it's underdeveloped empathy, but it's also underdeveloped emotional skills. And so it just turns into emotional avoidance. I want to make sure that I'm not coming across as like shamey or derogatory or saying that men don't have empathy, because that's not true at all. I know so many, like I said, I know so many men who have trained this empathetic muscle so beautifully. But I want to bring this up because if you are in the self-help world, if you are, you get the kind of the macho man stuff and some of it you like and is helpful, I also want you to be aware of how are we also training and bringing in this skill of empathy, or are we missing it? And do we need to start doing that with our sons? And, again, some more of this idea of the cost of not developing empathy. Again, it's disconnection, it's loneliness, it's defensive relationships. You might build a brand or an image, but you lose people, gaining an image, but not gaining the connections. Maybe people follow you or listen to you out of fear and obligation, not out of love and loyalty. And then, of course, regarding porn, you might sabotage your porn recovery by refusing to meet your own pain with care. You judge yourself. The lack of empathy isn't just an outward thing, but the lack of empathy is an inward thing, an inward turning, not able to be empathetic towards self. And that creates so many wounds. So empathy is a skill. It's not a trait. Do you understand me when I say that? It's not a trait. It's a skill. And so it's trainable, just like cold plunges, just like lifting, just like fasting. Empathy takes reps. And 2 ways that we can start to develop this. Number 1 is learning empathy with yourself. So learning to name your own feelings, doing the work that we teach in the podcast, and especially the work we dive into in the program. Stop turning your pain into punishment. So you're going to practice this internally. And then second is practicing it externally. And I recently heard someone say that one of the best ways to develop empathy is reading. But listen, not reading for self-development, not reading Atomic Habits and the Wim Hof method and David Goggins, not reading that, but reading fiction, reading a novel where you're completely immersed in someone else's perspective and someone else's viewpoint. So not books that are self-help focused where you're focused in on yourself, but books where you're stepping into someone's shoes and living someone's life. There's books. I love the book A Man Called Ove. Just Mercy is a beautiful book. I would definitely recommend that one. Just Mercy. American Dirt is a beautiful book. And I think, these ones are fiction, but fictional books really taking you into the depth of someone's experience is a beautiful way to develop empathy. And an extra bonus is sometimes those self-help motivational books, they get kind of exhausting listening to. This is going to be a great break for you. Those are some that I would recommend. Just Mercy, American Dirt. I've heard good things about Homegoing by Yaa Gyasi, Yaaghyasi. I've also heard great things about The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. So those are ones that I would recommend listening to, and I would love for that to be your challenge. Take a break from whatever book it is that you're listening to about self-help or whatever podcast you are listening to about self-help, and instead go listen to one of these books. Just Mercy, American Dirt, Homegoing, The Nickel Boys. All right. I love you guys so much. You are all such amazing, amazing people, such amazing men. And I know we have women that listen to this too. And I'm so blown away by witnessing how you are strong and gentle, that you're breaking so many patterns that were taught to you. Oh my gosh. Even you just listening to this podcast and starting to do this deep emotional work. Do you realize how many patterns you're just disrupting? Harmful patterns and lineage patterns. You're doing things that the men in your life have never done before. And they probably didn't have the resources, or maybe they did have the resources, but they chose not to, and you are. And so great job. I hope that you celebrate yourselves. You can be strong and gentle. You can be fierce and kind. You can be respected and be emotionally safe for people. So develop the discipline, focus on the discipline. The discipline helps you show up, but empathy is where the real impact comes in. And empathy, learning empathy for yourself, for others, is going to really help you gain that freedom that you want from pornography. All right, you guys have a great week, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
I want to invite you to come and listen to my free class, How to Overcome Pornography for Good Without Using Willpower. We talk about how to stop giving into urges without pure willpower or relying on phone filters so that you can actually stop wanting pornography. We talk about how to stop giving up after a few weeks or months. And spoiler alert, the answer isn't have more willpower. And then lastly, we talk about how to make a life without porn easily sustainable and permanent. If you're trying to quit porn, this class is a game changer. So you can go and sign up at sarahbrewer.com/masterclass, and it is totally free.